The Cursed Heiress. Inheriting a Fortune. In the heart of Manhattan, where the city's skyline gleams like a sea of diamonds beneath the golden rays of the sun, there lived a woman named Evelina Sinclair. Born into one of the wealthiest families in the country, Evelina's life seemed flawless on the surface. Her father, a renowned business mogul, was a titan in the finance world, while her mother was a former supermodel who graced magazine covers and walked the runways of Paris. As the only child of this glamorous couple, Evelina's world was one of opulence and privilege. Her childhood was filled with luxurious vacations, private tutors, and gala events in the most exclusive venues. Yet, as with all things in life, even the most perfect existence is not without its shadows. Evelina had always known that her family carried a certain air of mystery, a lingering presence in their lavish estate that never quite felt welcoming. The old Sinclair mansion, perched atop a hill, was as majestic as it was eerie, with its grandiose architecture and sprawling gardens. The walls, adorned with portraits of stern-faced ancestors, seemed to whisper secrets of the past, and the vast hallways echoed with footsteps that were never quite hers. As a young girl, she was often warned never to wander too far into the depths of the mansion, especially at night. One fateful autumn evening, when Evelina was in her late 20s, tragedy struck. Her father, the pillar of the Sinclair empire, suddenly passed away. The cause was swift and undetermined. One moment he was in his study, making calls and signing papers, and the next he was gone. The news of his death sent shockwaves through the financial world, but it was the whispers that followed that would change Evelina's life forever. A few days after his funeral, Evelina received a letter from the family lawyer, informing her that she was now the sole heir to the Sinclair fortune. Inheriting the vast business empire, numerous properties, and untold riches, Evelina's life was about to change in ways she could never imagine. But there was a catch. The lawyer's letter contained a cryptic warning, a family secret that had been buried for generations. The Sinclair family, it seemed, was cursed. It all began with her great-great-grandmother, Serafina Sinclair, a stunning socialite who was known for her beauty and charm. Serafina's marriage to a wealthy aristocrat had been the talk of high society. But shortly after the wedding, the Sinclair family began experiencing a string of misfortunes: illness, financial ruin, and even the untimely death of several relatives. The once celebrated family name was slowly tarnished, and rumors spread like wildfire. Some said that Serafina had made a pact with a dark force, one that had promised her eternal beauty and fortune in exchange for a terrible price. Her husband, it was whispered, had been involved in forbidden practices, and together they had unleashed something far beyond their control. The curse, according to the lawyer's letter, was tied to the family's wealth. Each generation would inherit not only the fortune, but also the same curse that had plagued their ancestors. Evelina, now the sole heir, had unknowingly stepped into a legacy of darkness. As the letter continued, it detailed the strange occurrences that had haunted the Sinclair family for over a century. Whispers in the night, shadows that seemed to move of their own accord, and a chilling presence that lingered in the corners of the mansion. The family was doomed to live in luxury, but never in peace. Evelina, initially skeptical, could not dismiss the mounting series of unsettling events that had begun to unfold. The first sign came on the night of her father's funeral. Alone in the mansion, she stood before the large family portrait in the grand foyer. As she gazed into the eyes of her ancestors, a cold chill swept through the room. The shadows seemed to stretch, curling around the frame like living tendrils. Evelina turned to leave, but then she heard it, a faint whisper, barely audible but unmistakable. "It's your turn now." The days that followed were filled with increasingly strange occurrences. Items in the mansion would move on their own. Doors that were locked would swing open at night, creaking as though pushed by an unseen hand. Most terrifying of all was the figure that appeared at the foot of her bed, a silhouette of a woman draped in black with hollow eyes that seemed to peer deep into her soul. Each time Evelina would wake, the figure would vanish, leaving only a lingering sense of dread. It was during one sleepless night that Evelina decided to confront the truth. She scoured the mansion's extensive library, searching through dusty tomes and family records, hoping to find some clue that would explain the curse. After hours of reading, she discovered a chilling letter written by her great-great-grandmother, Serafina herself. The letter described a ritual performed in the dead of night, where Serafina, desperate to keep her beauty and wealth intact, had called upon an ancient power. She had sought to bargain with a shadowy figure, one who promised to fulfill her darkest desires in exchange for a price that could not be paid in gold or silver. The ritual had been sealed with blood, the blood of her own child. Serafina's daughter, Evelina's great-grandmother, had died under mysterious circumstances shortly after the ritual. But the curse had not ended with her death. It passed on to every firstborn child, ensuring that each heir would inherit not only the fortune, but also the dark power that had been bound to the Sinclair name. As Evelina read those fateful words, she realized the horror of what lay before her. She had inherited not just the wealth, but also the curse that had haunted her family for generations. The riches, the glamorous lifestyle, the social status, none of it was worth the price of eternal torment. The next few weeks were a blur of fear and desperation. Evelina reached out to occult experts, spiritualists, and even priests, seeking a way to break the curse that had bound her family. Some suggested rituals, others offered prayers, but nothing seemed to work. Each time Evelina thought she was free, the shadow would return. It would follow her everywhere, through the grand ballrooms of her estate, the boardrooms of her business, and the lavish parties where she once felt untouchable. No matter where she went, the curse was always lurking, a dark presence just beyond her reach. In her search for answers, Evelina learned of a final terrifying option. The only way to break the curse was to sacrifice the very thing she held dearest, the family fortune. It was a sacrifice that would strip away her wealth, her legacy, and her place in the world. She would have to give up everything she had ever known in order to save herself, and perhaps the generations to come. But the decision was not easy. Evelina had known nothing but privilege, and the thought of abandoning her birthright was unfathomable. Yet, the more she thought about it, the more she realized that no amount of wealth could ever replace her peace of mind. No diamond could erase the terror that gripped her at night. She had inherited a legacy of death and despair, and it was now up to her to end it. In the final moments of her decision, Evelina stood in the heart of the Sinclair mansion, overlooking the sprawling grounds that had once seemed like paradise. As the sun set, casting an orange glow over the estate, she whispered the words of the ritual. The ground beneath her feet trembled, and for the first time in years, she felt free. The curse that had haunted her family for so long began to lift, and with it, the mansion's eerie presence faded into the past. Evelina Sinclair became a legend, not for her wealth, but for her courage. She chose to live a life of simplicity, far away from the life that had once defined her. The mansion was sold, the empire dismantled, and the fortune was given to charity. Evelina's name was no longer synonymous with power and influence, but with liberation, the cursed heiress who broke the chains of her family's dark legacy. And though the mansion stood silent in the distance, its secrets locked away forever. The whispers of the Sinclair curse faded into the annals of history. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Take care.